Hi, I'm Rich Benani, and welcome to another episode of Northeast Packard Classic Car. Today we have a 1928 Chrysler that needed a brake job. Chrysler was one of the first companies, actually the first company, to pioneer hydraulic brakes. This car has hydraulic brakes for 1928, which is quite rare. Henry Ford didn't go over to hydraulic brakes until, I believe, 1940. The brake system on this car is interesting. It has four-wheel external contracting hydraulic brakes. What that means is there's a band on the outside, okay, which grabs the drum, and when the brake pedal is depressed, this cylinder pulls the two sections of the band and it stops the system. You can see that this system was primitive. It worked pretty good for the time, but as brake systems evolved, it was a better idea to have the brakes inside the drum rather than outside the drum, for obvious reasons. Dirt and water would get in here and make the brake system not work as good as it did. One of the things that we try to do, we're going to bring this to you every week or every other week, is to try to show you different things, different cars that come into the shop and different problems that they have, so that you can better understand your own car and also access different things that we have in the restoration world to make things easier and less expensive. The first thing I recommend, absolutely recommend, is that you look for whatever part you need on the internet. A lot of this stuff, believe me, is on the internet. And if you could find something that's already rebuilt or already made, someone has gone through that problem for you and solved it. For instance, these flexible hoses. This was a big deal. This had four of them on the car. They were quite large. In order to do the brake system on this car, we actually had to have these rebuilt. We went online and someone had them, a set of four, which were quite reasonable. A lot less than having them rebuilt, almost 5 times less. So again, I encourage you to always look online first. The wheel cylinders, we always look online first because to have anything rebuilt and remanufactured costs a lot of money. And what we found was no one had these. So these wheel cylinders, luckily, were on the car. They had to be rebuilt. We sent them to a place called Apple Hydraulics, where they rebuilt all the cylinders, including the master, and they did a great job. Okay, they're located here right on Long Island. One of the most difficult things to find was the band, okay, the actual brake band. It's not made out of asbestos, so don't be afraid. And this brake band, after these were cleaned, we had to drill out the old brake band, put the new brake band in place, drill holes through it, and then put these brass rivets through it to hold it in place. Then the entire system is put back together. We're going to walk around here to the back of the car, and you can get a little look of what this was. And one of the interesting things I find is that Chrysler went into business around 1924, and by 1931 he actually built the Chrysler building. So you can imagine the type of magnitude of cars that he was producing at the time and how the company was doing very well. This is the rear system, and I had this off to show you. This is the brake band. Again, this contracts around the outer edge of the drum. The drum is right here. You can see it. Okay, so it contracts around the outer part of the drum. Again, good idea for the day, but and you know, it's much better to have the internal expanding shoes, which would push out on the outside of the drum, keeping most of the inside nice and clean. This is the wheel cylinder. This is the flexible brake hose. This car had 4 of them. And a little thing in the back here of interest, sort of cool. It looks like a spring with a cable on it, and that's the actual shock. That's how they actually prevented the car from jumping in the air. We'll move around to the front of the car one more time, because this had a interesting master cylinder. And the master cylinder is actually located right here. It's removed, and we had to rebuild the master cylinder, and went to Apple Hydraulics also. And this was the reservoir. This has an interesting kind of reservoir because I had never seen one of these before, and what they had is like they have a little plunger inside. And we took a small 5/8 wheel cylinder cup and actually adapted it to it, and it worked out perfectly, because what happens is you can actually compress the fluid down into the system prior to bleeding it. Because without this this little plunger in here, it was quite difficult. So again, moving ahead, I encourage everyone, if you haven't experienced owning an antique car, it's a great thrill. There's a lot of family events you can go to. Insurance is very reasonable. I highly recommend the Antique Automobile Club of America. They put out a bi-monthly, publication, beautiful magazine, which shows you different events that are coming up. And you can see the calendar of events in there. And the magazine gives a lot of helpful little hints, restoration shops, people that are reproducing parts, and it's always good to know if you're going to own an antique car. So again, this is Rich Venati signing off for Northeast Packard Classic Cars, and we'll hope to see you next week. Thank you.